Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Thank you for joining us today to the launching of this new segment of MyTrade. It's actually it can be live and sometimes it's just an uploaded video, but we want to launch it live for us guys to let you know what this is about, what Touchbase is about, and I want to see everyone who. Where are you watching us from? We're around 147 audience right now. Thank you so much for uh, watching us and giving time. I know it's a weekend and it's a sandwich. Later on, we will, meron na ba kayo idea who our guest be? Meron ba ba? Someone, hi Jeff, watching us from, hi Dixon, hi Sir Zaldi, and, sino pa yung nandito? Let's have a shout out dun sa mga uh, audience natin. Good afternoon, Sir Zaldi. Hi Jeff from Kuwait. Jeffrey. Someone's watching from Malaysia. And someone's watching from Laguna. Wow. Someone, hi Maya, some watching us from Milan. We're waiting for the people. It's actually going to be a short interview. This segment, let me just give you a background regarding this segment called Touchbase. If you know the YouTube channel behind the brand, they're talking about people behind a certain brand kasi for all this time, ang alam lang natin is stock code. And this is one way of getting to know the people, the decision makers of a certain company that is included in the stock market. Pwede rin naman tayong mag-guess of someone who's a market maker or someone who knows very well in the industry, mga experts. So those are the things that you're gonna see in this segment. We will try to upload at least once a month for Touchbase. And yeah, sige, tinitignan ko lang yung mga comments. That's why I'm stopping from time to time. So, hi Roland. Shout out daw to Stephen and Joe Carlo Kapalungan from Batanes. Wow! Someone's watching us from Batanes. Thank you guys. Someone's watching from CDO City. Ayan, thank you. Matutuwa yung guest natin. Our guest, for, going back to Touchbase, so this is going to be a part where in part one, we will talk about the industry that they're in. They're at least CEO or CEO of the company. So, syempre, it's like an insider info. We had a story the other day that if you can get an insider info, syempre, insider, it's because they're the top leaders of that particular company. Sino pa ba naman ang hindi natin magugustuhan na pakinggan, di ba? It's right. It's a fundamental way of knowing the value of the company is by knowing who decides or who got the say in the decision makings of that company. In order for you to know whether this company will go a long way, will have a good financial structure, it's the decision maker. Sila yung taga-execute ng mga of the things that needs to be done or even the vision of that company, diba? So I'm very excited for this one this segment. I know it's just a 30-minute video. This can be something that is live from time to time. Depende, syempre, we are guesting someone na hindi ganun kadali i-invite, diba? So I'm really excited for everyone to get to know not just the company but up close and personal to the person who's making the decision. And ito na nga, I wanna introduce, bago ko ipakita yung video, I wanna give you an introduction of our guest today. Good afternoon, everyone. So ito na, we're starting the official touch base segment. Inaantay ko lang yung touch base dito sa screen ko. Hindi pa yata ina-upload ng team. Ayun, nakita ko na. Okay, so let's. Okay, so I know you're all excited to hear untold stories of one of the most prominent personality in the industry today. I'm really glad that personally I know him. We will reveal many secrets about him, pati ako na-excite. Our first guest speaker spearheads probably the most important firm in the blooming Philippine economy. This person makes sure that everything is well regulated, running smoothly because we are talking about billions upon billions of money being traded every minute. He is a magna cum laude in a business administration and accountancy at the University of the Philippines, a CPA and a lawyer, a teacher, and a public servant. Not only that, alam niyo ba na bronze medalist din siya sa Mr. Philippines National Bodybuilding Competitions in 2002 and 2004. I don't know if you're gonna be able to guess who's the speaker today, but it is my honor and pleasure to touch base again with the COO of the Philippine Stock Exchange, a dear friend of MyTrade, Attorney Roel Refran. I'm calling him on stage. Hi, Attorney Roel.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good
I'm very
afternoon,
happy to
sir.
be guesting on your inaugural Touchbase session, Gina. Maraming salamat, and I hope through this exchange, balitaktakan lang to, no? Hopefully it's really a very free flowing discussion, and just to give everyone, no, all the clients of yours and all the listeners, for them to realize that at the end of the day, we're all going towards the same direction. Isa lang yung gusto natin for our country, no, at the end of the day. So I'm very excited to be here, and thanks for having me again.
Thank you, sir. Naalala ko si Sir Roel was our guest speaker last Market Outlook, and napaka-significant ng day na yon because that was the first, I think, incident na nagka-breakout na dito sa Pilipinas ng COVID. So I will never forget that particular moment. But I was so honored that in spite of that scare, Sir Roel, he said yes, surprisingly, sabi niya, tara China, let's do it. And I'm really honored na I have someone in the industry, and I'm considering a friend then, Attorney Roel Refran. So sir, first is getting to know the PSE. And the first question that I want to ask you is, sir, I think a lot of people don't know about this. Is PSE a private or public company?
Yes, they always confuse PSE with the SEC. PSE and SEC are two different organizations. SEC is a government institution, and that's the Securities and Exchange Commission. Hindi ho kami yon. We are not SEC. We are the Philippine Stock Exchange, and what we do is we are a private for-profit organization, and we have also been given the license to regulate via what's called a self-regulatory organization license. So we actually wear two hats. Number one is we wear a for-profit private organization corporation hat. But the more important, I would say the more significant hat also, no, is when we regulate our listed companies for listing and disclosure purposes and making sure that the trade transactions in the Philippine stock market is not just globally competitive, but also as innovative as we can be given the technological developments that, wow, for the past 2-3 years we have seen really technology has really leapfrogged, no, and that's also part and parcel of our DNA. We're also, you might say, a technology company, no. It's given all the challenges, there's also a lot of opportunities for the Philippine Stock Exchange as a private corporation, providing not just all these services, but also it's very important to highlight the regulatory function of the PSE.
So, sino ang nagulat knowing that PSE is not a public company yan? So, I think marami ang nagulat. Sino ba sa inyo? Can you comment on the comment section below, guys? Let me know what na-shock ba kayo doon sa sinabi ni Attorney Roel? But sir, has it always been that way? Because I remember back in the day, this was a separate, it's a separate company entity between Makati and Manila Stock Exchange.
Yes. In the past, remember, 1927 was Manila Stock Exchange, right? And the Makati was 1963. Those two dates were the incorporation dates. They were private corporations, except that they were both what we would call member-based organizations under our framework of laws. When you say member-based organization, every member would have a 1:1 economic rights as well as political rights. Unlike in a corporate structure where we are right now, the Philippine Stock Exchange, when back in 1997, 1996, when we unified, no? It's not called a merger, no? Just for the benefit of our listeners. It's really not a merger, because when you say a merger, it's one of the entities would become the surviving entity. But in this case, neither Makati nor Manila survived, because what we had was the birth of the Philippine Stock Exchange. So it was really a new corporation unifying the Manila and the Makati brokers to become the stockholders of the then Philippine Stock Exchange when it was formed. And then by virtue of the mandate, to what's called the mutualization mandate, to offer to the public the shares of stock of Philippine Stock Exchange, now we have a more diverse stockholder group, just like you would say the other listed corporations in our market. By the way, we are also a publicly listed corporation all the way back from 2003. No? So it's been 18 years since we listed. So Philippine Stock Exchange is also a publicly listed corporation.
Ka-age ko pala ang PSE. Joke lang.
18.
So the next question is, what do you think is the most effective move of PSE over the years that contributed to investors' population?
It's really putting to heart the fact that, okay, number one, the retail participation has for the longest time been a growth area. And when we realize that we have to think outside of the box when you try to reach out to the retail investors. Now, of course, our primary touch point would always be through the brokers, because kayo yung merong connect sa investors. Kayo yung nakakaroon ng multiplier effect. You're able to multiply in terms of the information campaign. You're able to get that to the investors. But we realize as well that technology could also bridge that gap. Back in 2014, we have we incorporated what's called the direct market access rules to incentivize brokers to utilize online trading and provide for certain parameters so that it's safer and it's actually not introducing a risk element to the market, right? Because of, obviously, when you have a lot more participants, you would always have to think about the risk management aspect. So I think that's a very important contribution of that framework, the direct market access rule, for purpose of online trading. And then another one would have to be the realization also that the local small investor need to participate more. That's why we also use technology for the LSI program for an IPO, right? The 10% LSI.
Yes.
Dati, you would have to fall in line pag lunchtime, right? Kawawa ka naman kasi if you're working, hindi ka nakakain, pipila ka, but you have to come back so that your brokers, as they signed your form, you could already submit it. So now, there's a simplified way for that. We call it the Electronic Allocation System, or EASY, EC. Pinadali natin yung dating hindi ganun kadali. Medyo mahirap dati. So that's another one. And I think a third one, if I may, is also adopting the gold standard when it comes to the trading platform. Our system is run by the NASDAQ trading engine. And that is, I would say, for the past 16 years that I've been with PSE, really the gold standard when it comes to matching engines. No? It's very resilient. It's able to innovate because there are new order types in the market. Siguro yung mga nagtitrade na nating mga listeners, they would see that there are a lot of order types being offered by brokers. And I think the main trading engine being very, very up to date will always give us a sense of confidence. And, at least it's not more than just bragging rights, but really it amounts to an efficient market that is able to address the demands of the investors. And this is not just the local, but more so as well the foreign investors.
And very timely, sir, yung LSI. I mean, the PSEEC, no? We don't know that this kind of pandemic is happening. Just imagine if mahuhold yung IPO just because we cannot fall in line. Just like I remember nung nandito pa yung trading floor sa Ortigas, I can see all the lines picking up pag ganitong patapos na yung LSI. And I think yung PSEEC had it in a very good timing talaga. Doon nga ako humanga when I saw that na buti na lang, kasi hindi nakapagpa-stop yung pandemic in terms of, giving follow-on offerings, di ba? Yung mga ganon. So, sir, it's
Right.
kudos to that for PSE. Ang galing.
Grabe, no? If you come to think of it, nobody would have known what would have happened to the world just a
Yes.
year ago, no? Yung COVID and all. But more so, the rise of the retail, what we have right now is history in the making. Ito na yun eh. Ito na yung new normal. I don't think the retail investors will go down anytime soon. Any given day, we have 55% already in the volume in the market being contributed to by the retail. Kayo ho yun, yung mga nakikinig. It's really the investors, no, the end investors. But for the longest time, it's not even accounting for 40% yung retail. No? In fact, swerte ka na kung maka 30% ka. Can you imagine, nag 55 tayo right now. And a more interesting fact that I'd like to share, yung local participation accounts for 75% na. Can you imagine? Hindi ko yan ever naisip. 25% na lang yung foreign. So ang nagda-drive ng activity right now is really just the local. And the local is composed of the institutionals, yung mga malalaki, and as well the investors, the retail, the ordinary investors that we are trying to hopefully get to be more interested, right? Because at the end of the day, investments and savings go hand in hand, right? You have to save to invest. If you have no savings, you cannot invest. If you have savings and don't have an investment vehicle, sayang naman yung savings nyo. In the end, baka magastos nyo lang. So, I think those are very important numbers for us to know that we have the market is evolving. I think it's an evolution. Some people call it the new normal, but I think the efforts of all the brokers nagbubunga na rin, nagiging mas interesado na rin through Facebook, through social media, and sana ituloy-tuloy natin to all the way to a point where pag meron na tayong derivatives, pag meron na tayong other instruments, siguro later pag-usapan din natin yung derivatives, na short selling and all. But I think it's a question of understanding the basics. We don't want for the people to run before they walk. Di ba yun ang lagi nating sinasabi? Matuto muna tayong maglakad bago tayo tumakbo. But I think the pace at which we can absorb all these developments depends on us, ultimately, the individual. So for those who are able to absorb it more and want to take the risk, then it's something that they can consider. Otherwise, you will go with another instrument. So yun yung dapat nating laging sana ma-discuss, no, in any forum. Individuals and investors differ as to their risk-reward sentiments. And I think hopefully the information is being given to them as accurately and really as transparent as possible.
Thank you, sir. That's very informative. So I was just wondering, let's go back a little bit in the time when when this pandemic started, because it created a very large impact in the PSE. During the time, the first thing came to mind nung Feb 1, when the first infected individual is already here in the Philippines. The first case of COVID-19 happened. Ano yung first thoughts? What was the first thing that came to mind?
Wow. The first thing that came to my mind was, what if hindi na kami papasukin sa building? How can we operate off-site? And that was when we made sure that our disaster recovery mechanisms, as in when there is a lockdown, because remember, Feb to March, we didn't know what a lockdown was. I didn't know what that meant. All I knew was baka hindi na tayo papasukin sa building, lockdown na. So we wanted to make sure that the function of a market, of a stock market, is not disrupted simply because there is a lockdown. And that did require us to liaise closely with the IATF, because if you remember, we were closed for 2 days because by regulation they did not include us as among the systemically important institutions. But when they did include us, we were able to function. So that was a legal regulatory issue. But on the technology side, we were ready to do what was necessary. If we needed to do offsite, we will perform and open the market using that framework. So yun yung unang pumasok sa akin. Pagka pinagbayaran, what do we do? Pag pinagbawalan, rather, what do we do? How do we do it? We are only as good as our brokers are also able to perform offsite. Some brokers prefer to be on the trading floor, but pag lockdown, wala na silang choice. So we needed to make sure that the connections and the privacy requirements. Remember, may mga data privacy requirements, may mga cybersecurity. All of these needed to be, as real time as possible because people did not have as much reaction time then already. As you mentioned,
Mhm.
February, and then March 16 tayo nagkaroon ng government pronouncement that we will be on a ECQ, right? Enhanced Community Quarantine. So that was the first thing that came to my mind. How do we operate so that the financial markets, the institutional investors also, merong confidence, hindi yung biglang, uy, bigla yata nagsarado yung tindahan. Bakit sarado yung tindahan? Pwede namang online.
Napakahalaga ng for our viewers, it's very important why we are asking this type of question. It's because as a decision maker, gusto nating makita paano ba mag-isip ang isang leader when it comes to a phenomenal thing like this, because knowing that PSE will magdedepende lahat ng trading yan, and for how long have we been locked in. Imagine mo na lang yung impact if they didn't have that kind of recovery or yung BCP nga, business continuity plan, right, sir? And yun, one of the things that you have to know, kaya yan importante, is for you guys, kung nasan yung confidence nyo na parang with what's happening, you know that the decision makers can go like 10 steps ahead or probably 20 steps ahead. And that's very important when it comes to leadership. Sir, here as our head of research, Mr. Nicky Franco, has been following the consistent increase in sales of electric vehicles and specifically Tesla. It seems that the new normal is not limited to the health sector, but the world is really transforming into a whole new era. In line with that, we have recently recorded a surge in the new online accounts. And can you share with us your plans for the PSE concerning that technology and digitization, which you have said that contributed nga a big factor to the increasing number of population?
Yes. Di ba sometimes when bad things happen, we say it's the worst of times. But
Mhm.
I also learned no, nung I was listening to yung Sunday Mass, no, Gospels in Ateneo online. Sabi nila the
Oh, yeah,
worst of
yeah.
times can also be the best of times. The worst of times can also be the best of
Correct.
times. And that's very true with what you have mentioned. Online trading and online account opening really surged. Like it really surged because people were home. People realized that there's investment opportunities, and so nagkataon din that the digital space in terms of digital payments, right, whether that's InstaPay or PesoNet on the banks, also contributed to the familiarity of people to do online transactions, whether you're purchasing essential goods online, right? You don't have to anymore go to the supermarket. I-deliver na to a pickup point, especially during the ECQ. So now, that also translated to more online interest. And I think for us, PSE, this is what is important for us. Number one, on the KYC, yung Know Your Customer, we have been working as well with our SEC so that as much as we can do what's called electronic KYC, right? Ito yung substituted KYC, of course, through FaceTime or through any other face-to-face online technology. You could already check that the person applying to open an account with a broker is indeed not a robot. Hindi siya robot, tao talaga siya. And you can ask him questions, due diligence, to make sure that he knows the risks as well as the, I guess it's a personal assessment on his risk appetite for him or her to become a client of a broker. So, can you imagine if I still have to knock at your doors and go to your office in Ortigas? COVID di ba? Parang medyo risky for your employees as well as for the person who wants to open an account. So, we are looking at what's called an EKYC framework, hopefully to institutionalize what has been, I think, more of an exception than the rule right now, right? Very few brokers have been able to get the nod of the regulators to do EKYC. And you know that very well. That's a very important, I would say, innovation because if I am in Mindanao, Cebu, I don't have to anymore go to Manila because for all you know, assuming you don't have a branch there, makakapag-open ka pa rin. So that's the EKYC. And then as I mentioned, the digital payment space, we have the PSE but this is just version 1.0 because it's electronic subscription for an IPO with respect to the 10% local small investor tranche. Any IPO, there's always a 10% that we give to the local small investors, mandatory. And then outside of that, there's a 20% that's distributed through the brokers. So a total of 30% is really meant for the brokers and the retail investor. Yung sa 10% that I mentioned, that is now digital, fully digital, no? But the caveat there is that when you've already subscribed, you will have to make sure that you pay it through the banks, right? So that extra leg, we want to also make it an online payment so that with a click of a button, you could already even transact using PSEEC, the payment modality or the payment side of your subscription. Remember, an IPO will just be 5 days, right? It's always 5 days. And we want hopefully to close the subscription and the payment as seamless as if you would if you're doing your online banking transaction. That is version 2.0 or the phase 2 of our PSEEC project. So I think si Nikki Franco's observation that talagang I think there's a shift now, the Internet of Things, they call it the IoT, right? The Internet of Things. Some people want to call it fintech, rightly so also. It's fintech, financial technology. But it's already here. And I think we will have to come up with better modes to distribute our services. And whether that be subscription, whether that be payment or eKYC, another service that has to be properly distributed is market data. Remember, information is the new oil, right? Lagi kong sinasabi yan,
Yes.
information is the new oil. If you have information, there's a lot of decisions you can make properly. Information in the market is what we call the market data. The last traded price, nasaan yung order book, kumusta ba yung trading pattern yan, kumusta yung volume yan. And so we're also going to come up with a program for investors using the PSE website, no, hopefully, so that we're able to give you better market data as and when you need it to supplement what the brokers are giving. Kasi kami free market data as a general rule because we have the database anyway. So we also want to tell the investors a very basic market data is disclosure. Before you trade, before you react to the news, check the disclosure of the company, and that's for free. You can get it through PSE Edge. You can get it to our website. It's for free. Download it. If you get news about earnings results, i-check nyo yung quarterly report or annual report that we require. So this is the market data that I was saying. And that is information, right? You are empowered. Information should empower you. And the chismis, pabayaan na natin, that sometimes is what gets people to be interested, yung chismis. But at the end of the day, it's our money. So make sure that we base it on proper information. And that's the market data side. So yung tatlong yun, the market data side, PSEEC, as well as really making sure that the KYC element is in place, I think that would already propel us to be ready for the new normal.
Nice, sir. Ang ganda ng mga looking forward to the PSEEC phase 2. For those who don't know, PSEEC is the way for you to apply initial public offering through local small investors program. So ito yung allocation apart from your broker's allocation. So if dati we used to do that manually, now we can do it by registering in PSEEC. So if you don't have a PSEEC account, please have one and then apply your broker there. You will be able to see all the brokers there sa PSEEC, and better if you chose Abacus Securities. Anyway, all right, good. So moving on, sir, I think there's a very curious question about do you think market is mature enough to do short selling?
Oh, very, very important question. Lalo na, no? I'm
Yes.
sure our listeners, our viewers, they saw what happened sa US and still happening, right? GameStop, AMC, Black Bear,
Robinhood.
Robinhood as a broker. So I think the market is ready for financially innovative trading practices and products. In terms of readiness, I believe that for the past 5 years, we really have seen maturity in terms of the investor space. But of course, at the end of the day, the risks have to be managed at the broker level. And for example, if you are to do short selling, the broker would also have to make sure that there is a securities borrowing and lending framework so that you will be compliant with our rule that for a short to be compliant, it has to be a covered short. Ang ibig sabihin ho ng covered short is there is a back-to-back arrangement or entitlement to source the securities being sold. Because right now, when you say short, you are entering a sell transaction when your position is you're not long. Wala kang existing position. Therefore, the risk is there that when prices move, for example, nagbenta ka at 20 pesos, you were expecting that the price would go down, right? You're bearish on the market. That's why you are shorting. But what if the market price goes up instead? Binenta mo ng 20, the next day naging 25. But there is a risk that the seller might back out, right? I mean, common thought process. That's why the requirement always is that since you are shorting, for delivery purposes, that has to be delivered in 3 days, right? Ikaw yung nagbenta, bago ka mabayaran ng proceeds, kung nagkaroon ng match transaction, kailangan ready ka to deliver. Wala kang ang pang-deliver kasi nga short, right? Short means you are selling something that you are not long in term position. That's why we only require a covered short. We will only allow a covered short. There has to be a securities borrowing or lending arrangement whereby a broker would also have a source from another broker through the clients of that other broker, the lender broker. Ikaw naman, ikaw yung borrower. Para kang nangihiram. Babayaran mo lang yung lending fee. Hopefully, the lending fee will be more than compensated for by the revenues if indeed the prices go down, because you're saying bearish ka nga, no? Bearing, ibig sabihin, pababa, right? As opposed to bullish, paakyat. So, short transactions. Now, all of these conversations, I think, will have to be at the level of our discussions with the clients, between the brokers and the clients. That's one. Secondly, margin trading, right? If you are to extend margin to your clients for purposes of short transactions, that could probably introduce another risk factor, right? But in general, if you are an online trader, if you're an online client rather, there would have to be the prepayment mechanism, right? There's maintaining balances so that indeed the transaction, if you are to be the buyer of that short transaction, no? Kasi yung short means the seller is shorting. Yung buyer naman nun, paano naman kung binili niya ng 5 pesos based on the short transaction, and then the next day, the price in fact goes down. Naging 4 pesos. So baka magdalawang isip siya, sana pala hindi ko na itutuloy ito, bibili na lang ako today kasi mas mababa. So, hindi pwede yon because the trade will have to be fulfilled by the broker. So this is what I always say. Short would always be, a short sale would always have to take into account the perspective of the transacting parties, no, the seller and the buyer. When it's matched, there will always be PSE through the Securities Clearing Corporation being the central counterparty. Ang tawag ko namin dyan, central counterparty. Short acronym is CCP. So when you trade in the market, you are technically anonymous. When you are trading, whatever is matched will be a transaction between the SCCP, our clearinghouse, and the counterparty, both buyers and sellers. So that walang fail, na ma-manage yung fail. We don't want another party na aatras just because prices move. And prices move a lot, right? We have 50% up, 30% down as we design our price volatility measure. So all of these will have to be considered when you think about short transactions, no? Wala kang ang stocks na yun, ba't ka magbebenta? So the next question dapat is, may mahihiraman ba? Right? And pangatlo siguro, bakit ka naman magbebenta nung wala ka? Because sigurado ka ba talagang bababayan? The simple answer is, no one is for sure. Wala naman tayong crystal ball. Wala naman tayong opportunity to look into the future, right? These will all have to be assessments. Sana wag namang chismis lang or guesstimates. Hopefully, that's why I said market data information will drive our decisions. Hopefully, we are proven right. Otherwise, pag short kasi, your exposure is unlimited. The prices can go up and up, right? And in that case, your expectation that you will buy it when it goes down will never happen, as what we have seen in other markets, right? So
Yeah.
readiness will be a function also of ito, yung mga ganitong usapan, because it
Mhm.
contributes to people becoming more interested. Later on, they will search the internet to learn more about it. And at the end of the day, practice is the best teacher, right? When people decide to do a particular transaction, they realize it did not work the way they thought it would, then they would be more careful rather than just us talking in a theoretical framework. So I think it's the function of the market operator like the PSE to offer as much functionalities, services, and instruments, hedging instruments to the market, both retail and institutional. So that's our perspective, but may risk management. Meron kami mga requirements for risk management because at the end of the day, we want we want the filters to be there, right? We don't want it to be really very, very, I would say, very unruly in terms of people just really canceling orders and all that.
Or
That's not,
aggressive.
ayaw natin naman ng sobrang aggressive,
Mhm.
di ba?
Mhm, mhm. Thank you, sir. With that you mentioned, we want to make sure, di ba? Kasi there are growing numbers of retail investors. Ano lang, naisip, I was just thinking about this because of what you said. How do we make sure that they are well protected in the information that goes around in the internet, especially when you said the information is the new oil? So how does PSE what's the part of what part the PSE does in terms of regulating the information that goes around that's really sometimes it can be uncontrollable kasi nga internet is everywhere. So how do we protect in the PSE side naman? I know there are a lot of factors that involving in the regulations, but what do you think is the drive of PSE there to protect the retail investors?
Right. So the information content in our publicly available website is rich in itself for the investors. There are social media pages that profess to be parang coaches ninyo, no? That there are other not affiliated with brokers. I think that's very, very concerning. If not, should raise alarm bells if you are the client. No, so you have to think about that. If it is by a broker, then you have that peace of mind because the brokers we regulate the brokers. The SEC as well has requirements for the brokers. But if it's by a non-broker institution, the problem always is this is unregulated. When you talk about all these gurus, no, rightly or wrongly, it's unregulated as we speak. So that information content is really right now buyer beware, and it's for the investor to make sure that, for example, there are people, and I've seen this in the past. Now they perpetrate a scam. They would say, "Oh, I can get prices just like an ESOP." Pag ESOP price, it's always at a discount. Pero hindi naman siya employee ng company. But the selling point is sasabihin nung that person, well, you can, if you want to participate, I can get it from the company. Just pay me, no? Pay me this much. Market is doing 100 pesos because 20% discount naman yan. Just pay me 80 pesos. But the reality is, this is really a scam. This is not true. ESOP or stock option plans will only be given to employees, officers, or directors of a publicly listed company. It's not for distribution to the public, right? So that's one example. Um, Unfortunately, the World Wide Web and the social media is so expansive that until we are able to come up with clear guidelines for all of these practices, no, there will always be hapless individuals who might be falling prey to these sweet talkers, no, magagaling. Sabihin lang, nagkatotoo yung sinabi ko, bumagsak yung price ni APL, right? The next day, bumagsak yung price ni SM, no, whatever, no, Jollibee. But in reality, it's all because markets go up and down any given day. So it doesn't mean you're right or wrong, no, when you say that. But some people are gullible and they would say, sige, maniniwala ako sa'yo, and then they tell you to enroll 1-month plan, magbigay ka ng ganito, I'll coach you and all that. So what unfortunately, while that area is introducing a lot of risks, we will rely on investors to call us and let us know if they feel there's something wrong with all these pages that they follow. And kasi from there, we can liaise with the SEC. But it's primarily CMIC right now, our watchdog for all of these practices. No, the Capital Market Integrity Corporation, which is also a subsidiary of ours, CMIC, that takes particular effort to police upon investor complaints the social media pages. No, so para siguro safe, the best would always be them accessing information through the broker portal. And if they want to access as well our information, the PSE website, then that is also a very good source of information for the brokers. Otherwise, kung sasama-sama lang tayo doon sa mga Facebook pages, that could be a very risky, no? Very risky. Kahit sino pang artista ang nagsasalita doon, whoever vlogger, sino the vlogger or sino ba influencer, iingat ho tayo diyan. So only trust reputable organizations. That's what I always say.
Thank you, sir. So that's getting to know the PSE. Now we're get to the part, getting to know the CEO of PSE, which is Sir Roel. So the first question is, this is ako personally, I'm curious, what did COVID-19 teach you?
Wow, COVID-19, alam mo, it made me realize that the family, the core, the relationship we have with our family is something that will never be that can never be replaced by your profession, di ba? The joy you derive from your work, importante yun, no? But I think at the end of the day, you know, when we have our own families, whether it's our immediate family or extended family, COVID taught us that humanity will always be primordial. It's not the material things, but always whether we are able to touch the people that we love on a daily basis, tell them that we love them because life is so fleeting, right? COVID has taught us that, you know, sabi nga nila, with the wind blowing, it might blow in a different direction. And really, life is so fragile, very fragile. That being said, we are very blessed. We have people around us loving us. We have our families. I have my 2 kids and my wife. So I'm very blessed in that regard. And COVID allowed me to spend more time with them because, di ba, the kids are on studying online, so they don't wake up early to take the ride to their school, no? So that is the greatest lesson I learned from COVID. Na at the end of the day, finding your why. And I realized my why in all that I do is really to give back to my family and to also prioritize health, because you might have a lot of things, material possession, but if you don't have health, really, that's probably wala rin, hindi mo ma-enjoy, hindi mo so kalusugan sa pamilya talaga ang aking realizations during the COVID. And hopefully we also realize that, you know, our passion, whether ito ako, my passion is education, that really you can still be able to you can still pursue your passion and think about a more effective way of teaching. Kasi COVID taught everyone to be innovative, right? Kailangan madiskarte ka na, hindi na pwede yung face-to-face. So it forced us to innovate, and I think that's also in our DNA, right? Di ba sabi nga, the survival of the fittest. So that goes for our professional endeavors, our passion, and our as well our biological requirements, no? So I think we will survive and thrive. Not just survive, we will thrive. Dapat mag-thrive tayo and we accomplish all our dreams, no? Hindi pwedeng maski pops lang. Kailangan mag-exceed tayo ng mga pangarap natin.
Kaya sa audience natin, it's a very good note na sinabi ni Sir, no? COVID has taught him to find your why. Kayo ba, can you comment in the comment section below, have you found your why? And can you share with us like a brief kung ano yung why na yan, and we will share it with if a flash natin sa screen. Second question, sir, just a quick one. Are you a morning person or are you a night owl?
Alam mo, I'm both.
okay.
I'm both. Yeah, I'm good to go in the morning, and then at night, as required, I can also burn the midnight oil. So okay ako both.
So sir, no nag-weightlifting pa kayo, kailan kayo nagpa-practice, morning or evening?
Oh, that's a good question. Nung nagbo-bodybuilding ako, nagte-training ako, I would normally practice at night because
Ah.
and that's also because it will take longer for me to work out at night than in the morning because I have work. I'm able to work out more at night. So yes, I'm both a morning and a night person.
Wow, meron palang gano'n. I'm still contemplating eh. Kasi minsan, oo nga, minsan sa umaga pumupunta yung thoughts mo is yung mga ideas that, can contribute sa company. Minsan sa umaga siya, for some reason, sa umaga siya lumalabas. And sometimes, when you're going to sleep at night, ganun nangyayari din sa akin. You will think of something uh, na ideal, I mean, very creative. So, ako figure out ko pa rin. Thank you, sir. Um, it's a, it's a nice thought na, pwede palang both. And, sir, what's your Myers-Briggs?
Hindi ko na nga maalala yung Myers-Briggs ko. I was checking it. We used also when I studied in the US, Myers-Briggs yung ginamit namin in terms of assessing our personality.
Mm.
And then dito naman in the local market, ibang system naman, Harrison assessments, iba naman yung aming profile. But essentially, I as a person, right, as a leader, I I I I probably not the dictatorial type. I'm more looking for that unanimity, looking for that consensus. But situational. If in an emergency, I always become like I just tell them what to do in an emergency. Hindi na ako nagiging democratic because the emergency would not allow for a long-term discussion, right? That's my mindset. But at the end of the day, I always say when you're building a team, you have to know yourself, right? Leadership is about self-regulation. Leadership is about self-regulation. Self-regulation means you know how you react to different circumstances, to different problems, different circumstances. And knowing is already half the battle. Pag alam mo how you react, so that you will also be effective as a leader. And that being said, I always try to impart on everyone that I cannot do it alone. I need everyone to help because I'm only as successful as you are successful. I'm only as good as you are good, if not better. So, pero pagka emergency, China, you really have to be, crack the whip. Ikaw na ang magdedesisyon nun. Of course, you listen to them, but make the decision accordingly.
Ay, tumatawa yung sir. Sir, konti na lang. Actually, sir, based from what you're saying, I think you are an ENFJ. Tingin ko lang.
ENFJ.
Yeah,
ENFJ.
yeah. You can say, for those who is not familiar with Myers-Briggs, you can Google it. There's a question. It's a type of personality. We usually do. And dito yung parang horoscope or yung mga hindi siya scientifically based personality trait. So you can check ano yung Myers-Briggs nyo kasi may mga certain one of the popular person na I know ay kunyari meron si Andy de la Cruz, sabi baka may kaparehong INTJ diyan. Alam nyo ba na si Sir Nicky Franco, alam ko INTJ siya, alam ko lang. At yung susunod naming guest, abangan nyo, sa susunod na Touchbase, he confirmed that he is an INTJ. Ayan. Kaya, it's really curious ka kasi malalaman mo what are the strengths of that person using Myers-Briggs. Next is, sir, what book you think that changed your life? Yung
The book that has been a game changer for me was The Power of the Subconscious Mind. Alam mo, bata pa lang ako, gustong-gusto ko na yung book na yun. No? I think it's still available. No? You can look for it, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. That helped me when I was studying. That helped me when I was in sports. That helps me to this day as I also bring up my kids. I always tell them that when you want something that badly, you have to visualize it. Whether it is that house that you dream of or that partner that you hopefully find and meet or that a career or sa pag-aaral, sana pumasa ako, sana mag-top ako and all that. Work will always have to be put in. You have to be smart about working, right? It's not about you putting in needless hours, but you have to be smart. But pag yung mind ang bumigay, wala na. That's why the subconscious mind is like the command center. And that book tells us that you have to control the subconscious mind such that you dream about things. It manifests what you prioritize, what you care deeply about. And I think it's also allows us to be intrinsically motivated right? Ikaw yung mga pangarap natin lahat. Kaya mo yan eh. Of course, it will not happen ng magic. It will require you to be smart about your strategies or decision. But, the subconscious mind will help you because we are only able to tap a fraction of our mind, right? The power of the mind. Not even though 5% has been tapped. Can you imagine that? So what? You have
Yeah.
95% potential. So I always say that's why up to this very day, I am learning because I believe that in any ambiguity, there is a lesson that is to be learned. I embrace ambiguity. Lagi ko sinasabi sa mga estudyante ko yan na when I give them questions and cases, embrace the ambiguity because it's when you struggle that you learn the most, right? When you struggle, you learn the most. But that being said, of course, dapat subconscious mind mo, buhayin mo, kausapin mo yung subconscious mind in the sense that you have to visualize something beginning to happen. It's not gonna be instant, but if sa mind mo palang defeated ka na, then medyo mahirap na yon. So the mind has to be powerful and the subconscious mind is the center of all our dreams, our ambitions, and that will also control the way we think about things. So positive thinking then, but ultimately, dapat talaga you wire yourself, right? It's programming. You have to program the mind.
Yan, sir, may naging curious, sabi ni Jamie Alexandra, sino daw po yung author ng Power of the... let's
Remember, if
name it.
it's let me think about it. No, the power. I think available pa siya online.
Who? Joseph
Iba-iba.
Murphy ba?
Murphy.
Joseph-
It's Murphy.
Ayan,
It's
ayan,
Murphy.
Joseph Murphy. Ayan.
Yes. I love that book. It's a very thin book, so it's easy for everyone to read. And that has made a lot of difference sa buhay ko. The subconscious, the power of the subconscious mind.
Thank you, sir. And sir, having said that, meron siyang sinabi, meron isang comment. Similar yung Master Key System by Charles Hanel about subconscious. I think it's kasi the most untapped. Kasi talaga, literally, hindi natin siya diba? We cannot fathom what's inside the subconscious, and sometimes this is being used in our decision making. Hindi natin alam. That's why there's another book called The Blink, and I think sabi nila we can decide within 30 seconds and a minute the moment that we saw it. It's not because that we are just prejudging what we see, but it's actually the collection of all the subconscious that we had embedded Kaya meron kang, if it's in danger, ano mo na siya, parang ramdam mo na something's wrong. So that's why I agree with that. The power of the subconscious mind.
And I would like to share, Gina, the subconscious mind, there are times when it's able to absorb the most, right? When you wake up early in the morning, that's the best time, when you want to program certain thoughts before the world gets really crazy, right? So that book taught me that. So it's something that our listeners might want to. It's one thing kasi always to say, bahala na, fate would always be there, no? Remember, fatalistic ang Pilipino. Ako naman, i-program na natin yung utak natin para we hopefully will realize. Visualization is subconscious thinking also. No? You visualize and you tell yourself that this will happen. And that has made a big difference in my life.
Wow, tingnan mo si Sir pala is practicing visualization. So ba, parang sino dito sa audience has a dream board? Ayan, one of our projects actually, sir, is it's a strategy for the beginners, yung Marge. We have a primer there where we gave the dream board dun sa mga bagong para may program sila. So the question is, dun sa sinasabi mo that a lot of things has changed when you realize about the power of the subconscious. Who are you growing up? Who is Roel Refran growing up?
I always tell my kids, when I was growing up, grade school, high school, I always thought education would give me a lot more opportunities. We were a middle-income family. I would take the jeepney ride to school, back and forth, and I would be that person who would just really want to give it my best so that when my parents take a look at my grades, they would be happy, They would be surprised, may mga konting awards and all that. But I think growing up beyond the thirst and desire to learn, I always thought that the importance of yung support group and yung family. Kasi we were four in the family, I was number three, and I always saw that my mom and my dad were really working so hard, and hopefully pag nagkatrabaho ako, nagkaroon ng opportunity to earn, that I could also give back. So na-realize ko yon, that the importance of a family, simply because the other friends of mine didn't have a complete family. So I think natatak sa isip ko yon, number one is to be the best student I can be, because we, hindi kami pinanganak na maraming resources. Sabi nga nila, when you have not a lot of resources, you become resourceful. Kaya I was forced to be resourceful nung bata pa lang ako. And pangarap ko talaga mag-aral, gusto ko talaga maging abogado, maging accountant, only because I realized that very interesting yung matuto ka. For my own sake, ang competition ko lagi sarili ko. I want to be a better version in 2021 than I was 2020. I think I'm already version 5.0. Ang dami ng bugs, ang daming mga bugs. I've reinvented myself 5 times already, I think. No? My wife might disagree. So, marami na akong kailangang ayusin. I never compare myself to others. Of course, others will always inspire me. Marami akong role model. Role modeling ako eh. But at the end of the day, I don't beat myself to a pulp. No, don't be too hard on yourself. Live a little. Find your passion, and that is life, right? I collect old vintage pieces ng relos, for example. That I'm passionate about that. And yeah, I'm sure our listeners would also have their own happy places. No, find your happy place. Kailangan balance lagi. Hindi pwedeng go, go, go. Baka sa pag-go-go-go natin, tumirik tayo, right? There's always balance in life, and it's really an individual decision at the end of the day.
Ganda nung sinabi ni Sir. It's really, actually, yan yung, I think I wanna ask you that, yung final na question, because I've noticed like today's yung mga kabataan yan, they're so quick into looking for an impact, na nagmamadali sila lahat, na parang minamadali nila lahat ng bagay, and have and a lot of pressure are being given to them. Doon pa lang sa pagpunta pa lang sa social media, nakikita nila lahat ng achievements ng mga kasama nila and all, and sometimes yun nga, parang ang ganda nung sinabi mo about balancer, and I think a lot of us should be reminded ng ganong klase, kasi for if and yung magkakaroon ka ng someone as a role model, kasi 'di ba, parang instead of competing to other people, you're competing to yourself, and it gives you a lot of it loses a lot of pressure doon, based doon na magkakaroon pa ng effect doon sa mga people around you that you think na feeling mo competition mo. And ang ganda ng sinabi mo, Sir, pero bago yung last words mo is, where do you shop? Ano ba yun? Kasi si Sir, pag pag kilala niyo si Sir, alam niya ang gaganda ng laging laging dapper yan. Ang ganda lagi ng get up niyan. So where do you shop, Sir?
Nako, ano lang ako sa mga, I'm very practical. Naghahanap ako where you can find good quality, and pag may sale, that's where I would go. So at the end of the day, but yung kunyari, yung our suits, mas maganda pa rin yung pinatahi mo, because you're able to get your dimensions. Lalo na weird yung katawan ko because I did bodybuilding, right? Medyo hindi siya off the shelf. That's a challenge for me because of my bodybuilding days. But I think find something that's very safe, the earth colors and all that. I baka mas marami pang akong matututunan from you, China. I have to ask for your advice on that one.
Sir, talaga. Natutuwa ako when you said you have passion in collecting watches eh. Parang nag-wonder to,
mga vintage, because I always believe, when you get older pala, and just final kwento, no? When you get older, you always think that the grass was greener before, that the world was so much peaceful before. So parang when you're reminded of, I'm a 1980s kid growing up, born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, to MTV music to 'di ba yun yung mga 80s 90s. So the watches kasi bring you back in time literally, right? The old watches or 1970s. But you know, my wife will get mad at me, so I have a very small collection, a very small collection.
That she knows.
that she knows.
Ah,
I hope
sir,
she's not listening.
sir, may question si Carlo, pero I think ano to, it's about what kind of trader are you actually being in the PSE, they're restricted. I think maganda sir na ma-share mo to sa kanila
Yes,
about the
very.
PSE.
We are defined to be what's called an insider under the Securities Regulation Code. Therefore, the moment you join PSE, hindi ka actually pwede mag-trade. But what we can do is really to also take participation in passive funds like UITFs or mutual funds. And normally, I think in terms of risk appetite, I'm more the aggressive type. No? So in terms of the ALMF or UITF, which we are allowed to invest in, those which reflect as much equity as possible, a little bit fixed income, right? Because my goal is long term. I'm long term because I'm preparing naman for. Remember, you're always looking for the education of my kids, right? Of in the future, I have a grade 1 and a grade 3. So hopefully, when they want to study masters or ano pang gusto nila, para matustusan ko. So long term. And that being said, it's I always say the volatility on a daily basis should not be a concern to long term for those who are actually in it for the long term, right? Hanggang dun lang ang experience ko in trading. I think your listeners have a lot more to share with me.
So now, hindi na kayo magtataka. So there is a certain restriction for PSE employees to trade in the Philippine stock market. And sir, sobrang dami namin natutunan today. And natutuwa ako sa mga comments. I think people are starting to get to know people behind the decision making, especially here yung pinaka debut nga natin, which is the Philippine Stock Exchange. But the last question that I want to ask you, na I think maraming mga tao which are also curious about, hindi nahihiya lang silang itanong, but I want to ask on their behalf, you being in the position that you are right now, when was the time that you were starting? Were you looking forward to this position? Are you the type that, what was your goal moving up? And what will be the advice that you have for the young people na nanonood sa atin ngayon who has dreams and passion and, trying to get ahead to their career, to be able, what is success? Being a leader that as you are right now, yung napagdaanan mo in the past, what are the values that are really important in terms of, getting to where they want to be?
Oh, okay. Well, alam mo, isa sa talagang gusto ko rin lagi is to help yung mga kabataan. No? If I could be what you would call a mentor to them, and I do that, no, to my students because I teach in school, right? I teach in school to those who would seek my assistance, and I kind of guide them. And then it's always because naniniwala ako when I was starting, right, that you just need to get your foot inside the door. Right? May ganung kasabihan ako sa sarili ko. I always tell myself, I have to get my foot inside the door. Paano ka makakapasok? So, of course, nandiyan yung resume mo. But what if your resume hindi bumagay or is not able to get you inside the door, right? So, you have to think. You have to have a short, medium-term, long-term plan because your career will be a 40-year career, right? Gumraduate ka ng 20s, you'll retire 60, 65. So, you think about the career as a very long-term plan. Your job at the start, don't think about it, wag pera, right? Because inisip ko lagi, I'm learning, I'm getting paid for the first 5, 6, 7 years. That was my mindset. So I was not looking for the highest paying. I was looking for what would give me the skills and give me the experience and the background. Because at the end of the day, your decision making is a function of your experience, right? Hindi pwedeng hula-hula. It has to be an experience because you've done it before. You failed, natuto ka how to be a better decision maker and all that. So that was my those were my initial thoughts. And then, ito I'll share with you, there will always be opportunities. There will always be options. Now, it's a question of you recognizing yung opportunities na yon. Because in my case, I always said, I want to be different from others. But some people will say it's more comfortable to be, mas komportable kasi kung you're aligned with the general, right? Ako, I wanted to be
Mhm.
different. That's why, as a lawyer, I didn't want to be in a law firm for the rest of my career. I wanted to do something different. Why? Because the skills that I have, I can put to better use in a non-legal related work, like in the stock exchange. No, my legal skills complement the work that I do in terms of critical thinking, in terms of paano ka dapat may ebidensya, kailangan maliwanag. Huwag ka lang, don't take things at face value. That's a basic skill that I've learned as a lawyer when I was practicing. So, be different. I know you know how best to be different. Be different in a way that you're able to market yourself properly, right? Because yung buhay at the end of the day, it's how you communicate your story, right? And what do you call that? That's marketing. How you communicate your story is marketing. Um, in the context of professional engagement, that's marketing. In the context of relationship, pag nanliligaw ka, mina-market mo rin yung sarili mo, right? So it's marketing. But dapat, totoo. Meaning, when you say something, you can support it. Because in work, you got your foot inside the door, but pagdating sa work, you could not perform. So that's why I said, be realistic, but be ambitious. Be realistic, but be ambitious. And the world is your playground, right? I never, when people tell me you cannot do it, that's when I realized, I'm glad I'm not that person who said I cannot do it. When I was applying for a Fulbright scholarship, they said, hindi ka bibigyan kasi MBA ang gusto mo. The last time they gave a Fulbright for an MBA to study in the US was in the 1970s. Chino, what I thought about that? Sabi ko, in that case, I have a very high chance. So I'm playing tricks on my mind with my mind. Sabi ko, I have a very high chance because this is the first in a long time that they will see that they should give it to me. And I was very lucky. Kakadasal ko, pinagbigyan ako ng opportunity na mag-aral sa abroad for my MBA via Fulbright scholarship. So, pero kung nag-give up na ako noon, because sinabihan ako na hindi ka bibigyan, right? So that's why I'm sharing with you, kailangan talagang huwag tayong masyadong look beyond the limitations. Look at the possibilities, right? Look always at the possibilities. Of course, you will fall. Madadapa ka. Hindi naman ang dami kong failures. I have a lot of failures. Pero cut yourself some slack. Huwag mo masyadong bubugin sarili mo. Because remember, you're still a work in process. You are never a finished product. Sa accounting, you're still a work in process. Matanda na ako, I'm still a work in process. The raw materials are still there. I'm trying to improve every single day. And I think the people who stop improving are the people who have breathed their last. As long as you're still alive, you're still improving. So, ganyan yung mindset ko for my career. Success, ako it's really having a family that you go home to and that, it's a genuine relationship. Mahal na mahal ka ng anak mo. That's success to me. Of course, the physical things will give you comfort, you and your family comfort. So I would be lying to say that's not important. That's very important as well. But that's a function also of doing what you love to do. Then you're able to progress. Then you're able to market yourself properly. Again, as I said, everything will at some point be a function of your experiences, right? And continuous learning, aral ka lang ng aral. Kung may free online, aral ka. And that's why I teach. Because to me, no lesson is complete until you pass it on. That's why I teach. To me, no lesson in my life is complete until I pass it on. And I pass it on not just hopefully to teach them, but to inspire them. Because to me, that teacher should inspire the students, not to terrorize. You have to inspire the students. And in my own little way, I try to do that as best as I can. And yeah, I'm still doing that. Hopefully, may isa lang ako ma-inspire. I'll be more than happy. To our listeners, may isa lang dyan. And then that's the best satisfaction that I could ever ask for, no?
Grabe. Kayo ba, ano ba yung mga line? Ang dami niyo, sir, quotable quotes. Ano yung quotable quotes na inspire kayo from Attorney Refran? Ito nga, sir, sabi niya, love this. Sabi ni Kay Lumagbas, the volatility of the market should not be a concern for those long-term investors. And Amanda, and ako, personally, yung mga nakikita mo sa screen, look beyond the limitation. Yung, kasi minsan, in this era na puro digitize, hindi na tayo nagkakaroon ng patience in, pag nakita natin na limitation, parang give up na tayo, check na tayo sa ibang avenue. Nagiging tuloy, jack of all trades tayo, hindi tayo nagkakaroon ng expertise sa isang bagay. And it's so hard na maging ganyan at this day and age where everything can be, you can get it from typing and date nga lang, swipe ka na. So, di ba, parang konti na lang ngayon yung talagang by the roots na, you're trying to cultivate it from the roots of kung ano man yung gusto mong gawin. Ito sinabi ni Miss Winnie, no lesson is complete until I pass it on. This one is what I love the best. And sir, I think ang dami mong na-inspire this afternoon. And, ito yung type na when in terms of learning, ayan, sabi ni Marilu Hamar, naggrabe, good vibes ka, sir. Thank you po sa advice. Opo, ayoko din habang buhay OFW. Ang dami natin yan matutulungan ng mga kagaya ni Miss Marilu na, kasi minsan sa dami ng nasa social media, hindi lahat is inspiring eh. Minsan mas marami pang rant, 'di ba? Parang and having an avenue like this, talking if someone na nandun na sa position na leader and nakakatuwa na si sir is not even he wasn't born on a silver platter. Talagang he climbed the ladder up to the career na hindi nangangahulugan na alam mo nasan doon ka sa average, just mag-stay ka na lang doon sa average. And another Facebook user said that always look forward for another opportunity. I think, sir, ang dami mong na-inspire today. And baka tatanong nila sa akin kung saan ka nagtuturo. Baka gusto ka nilang maging professor. and, sir, thank you so much. I hope this will not be the last. Meron kaming mga YouTube channels that I think that we will ask you kung pwede ka. And ayan, so si Andy said, I feel Attorney Refran is a family man. I remember a famous quote, no amount of success can compensate for a failure in the home. Indeed, it's not all about the money. Thank you for all the positivity. Nakakatuwa. And knowing that the person behind Philippine Stock Exchange is a person like Sir Roel, di ba, mas magkakaroon ka ng parang relief na alam mo that the people behind na nakaposisyon, yung is people that you will be, na mai-inspire ka. And that's the main thing na goal namin dito sa Touchbase. And when you learn something like this, it's not just about the technicals, not just about the fundamentals. It's knowing yung deeper, yung root, yung source, yung fundamentals na yon, the decisions that it makes. And it will be rooted in our subconscious, and you will know mahirap makalimutan. And that's actually the goal of this segment. And we hope that you will be able to tune in our channel. You can like our page, subscribe our YouTube channel, because you will see a lot of these types of things. We will educate you and we will help PSE to ensure that the investing public will know a proper way of education, not just in investing, in life also. And yung mga ganito kasi mga bagay is rooted deep down in our values. Yun yung even sa trading psychology, kasama yan, kahalo yan lahat. Thank you so much, sir, and I hope I wish you all the best, and all on behalf of dun sa staff mo dyan sa PSE. I wanna say regards also to President Monzon. Thank you so much, and I hope na we'll continue this journey of expanding the horizon sa tamang investing ng mga tao. Para hindi na sila makapunta dun sa mga scams that you have mentioned a while ago. Thank you, sir, and I hope
napakalaking opportunity for you to have me. The privilege is mine. Maraming salamat. Only because I enjoy talking to you as a person, and I always say that you are a very big yung reforms at saka yung initiatives mo for MyTrade. Napakaganda for us to see that, and we support you and all the brokers out there. And I think lahat naman tayo, we are all going to the same destination. Gusto natin lahat umunlad ang Pilipinas. Alam mo, corny, sasabihin nyo ng corny, we do what we do kasi gusto natin, meron tayong pride sa Pilipinas eh. And the stock market should reflect the sentiments of everyone na naniniwala tayo sa bansa natin. Kasi kung hindi naman tayo naniniwala sa bansa natin, nako, baka hindi ka na mag-invest kasi hindi ka naniniwala mag-i-improve yung mga kumpanya, so yung ekonomiya natin. And I think yung segments na ganito, you're laymanizing a lot of otherwise complex things, will hopefully resonate well with all the listeners. And at the end of the day, we just really want to make things better for our family. Pero alam mo, there's a bigger purpose than ourselves. Lagi na sinasabi, no? You should leave a place in a better framework or in a better state than when you found it. Yung Pilipinas, nung pinanganak tayo, like when we pass it on to our kids, dapat mas maganda naman, wag naman nating sayangin, for example, environment, dapat naman maganda pa rin yung hangin, yung tubig malinis and all that. So, I think everything is connected. Lahat naman yan, tagpi-tagpi. Mahirap lang minsan makita yung connection as you are there in the particular moment. Pero looking back, you see, uy, connected pala lahat. So, siguro at some point, we will intersect again with your listeners. And I hope this is just part 1. Mag-part 2 tayo, as many parts as you want. And kung anong gusto nyo pag-usapan, pwedeng sports, pwedeng pag-aaral, pwedeng career, bodybuilding. Maraming salamat ha, and I really enjoyed this chat.
Sir.
Thank you very much.
Me too, sir. Thank you so much. And I hope na yung mga listeners, I think, sir, ang dami. Kasi hindi naman bumaba yung the audience remained and stayed there. And then, they looked forward for every sentence that you will say. Nakakatawa na it's really inspiring. Thank you for your kind words, sir. Talagang ibabaon ko yan. And all these challenges, ibabaon ko yan. Thank you so much. And God bless po sa inyo. And I keep safe and the family safe. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that's it for Touchbase. I hope that you liked it. If you like a certain line from Attorney Refran, go ahead and share it on your wall. This is only the beginning. We will get to know more people behind the brand, behind the faces of the leaders that makes the market. So with that, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye.